Hey YouTube, 1986 Foxbody Mustang. Last fall, before I put the Mustang away for the winter, my sister was following me when I put the car away to the garage for the winter, and she said that my brake lights are really dim. So I've actually put a blacking film on the taillights here, just to kind of black them out and to kind of go with the scheme of the car a little more. And she noticed my brake lights are really dim, so I actually took a closer look at it, and she was right. So in the off season, I did a little research, and on Amazon I bought some LED lights. These LED lights are 3 times the brightness of the factory lights. So just so you know, so I bought red LEDs for the brake light, running light, and those are replaced the 1157s. And for the signal light, I got a yellow LED to replace the 1156 bulb. And just so you can see what they look like here, that's what the LEDs look like. So they're really good, they're really bright. Now I ran into some problems after I changed them. The problem is the brake light worked, but on my little console, it actually showed me that my brake light was burned out, which is not the case, because it wasn't drawing enough power. And when I went to use the signals, also a problem I ran into is the signals did not work because they're not drawing enough power. So I bought these resistors. So for the brake light and the signal light, I actually bought some, you can see here, the 50 watt 6 ohm resistors, and those will work fine. Those were $10 Canadian on Amazon. So not an expensive thing to get. And actually the LED lights themselves are pretty cheap too. I got them for like between $18 to $20 as well. So really good price. So what I've done is I wired in. I'm going to wire the last one in and show you how to do those. So across from the signal light, I got the 6 ohm resistor, and across the brake light I have a 6 ohm resistor. Now under the research I did, they say the 6 ohm resistors, not to use those for the running lights because they get too hot. So what I did is I picked up an 8 ohm resistor, and I'm going to put that across the tail light, the running light. Real quick, there's the mess I got for wiring. If you're looking at the wiring coloring schematics on those, let me get a little more light in here, might help a little too, see more of a mess. So the brake light is a red light. The red wire. Hold on here, where's my finger? There we are. So the red wire is for the brake light. There's a brown wire. The brown wire is actually your running tail lights. And your black wire here is the system ground. So when you put the resistors in, you have to go from, so for the brake light, you go from the red to the black when you connect it in. And you can probably see this on the signal light here. So there's my signal light. There's the green wire. And you see the red wire here is actually from the resistor. And can you go a little upside down here? And so I've actually soldered that in place. So the resistor goes across the green to the black. I've seen some comments on the internet where people put these resistors in. They say that when they do that, the light gets dimmer. Well, if they've done that, that means they actually hooked up the resistors in series. So you want to make sure you go across the 2 wires. You don't want to just cut one wire and then just keep it in line, because that will make your light dimmer. The resistors will not make your light dimmer. What they will do is it'll draw more current on the circuitry, so that your information center that you have inside on the console, when your error messages, it'll remove the error messages, and it'll draw more current for your signal lights, so that the signal light it'll flash when you put it on. On newer technology vehicles, if you actually put an LED in there, it will actually flash quicker, because the technology for the flasher is different. So under the old technology stuff, it's actually, when you put the LED in, it will not flash. So you need to up the current in the circuit by putting a resistor in place. And I've already got the inside removed here. I've got these drilled and tapped on the inside of the vehicle here, on the metal part, and that's going to help them run cooler because it increases the surface area. For the brake light, it's not an issue for heat. For a signal light, it's not an issue for the heat because they're not on all the time. They're on briefly, but where the problem comes in is for the running lights. The running lights, because they're going to be on so long, the resistors will get really hot. And that's why they don't recommend the 6 ohm. So I actually went with an 8 ohm. It'll draw a little bit less current and run a little bit cooler, and it's rated for that. So what I'm going to do here is, that's the one I want to make sure I keep away from the plastic interior, because these things will get so hot they will actually melt the plastic. You don't want that to happen. So I actually marked off a spot here, and what I'll do is I'm going to put this in place and see how, so you can see how I installed it, and maybe that helps you a little bit as well. So again, the brake lights and running lights, there's the package I bought off of Amazon, and essentially you want to make sure that it's compatible with an 1157 socket. For the signal light, you want to make sure it's compatible with an 1156 socket, because that's just a single filament. For the signal light, you want to probably go yellow. You can get white ones, but I'm thinking, you know what, being it's yellow anyways, go for it. The plastic on the lens. And for the brake light, you can go white if you wanted to, but I wanted to make sure that the red comes through, so I got a red LED light for that one. And again, so what you'll need, so you need 2 brake lights, 2 signal lights, and actually there's a couple marker lights in the very corner. If you're familiar with the cars, it's kind of hard to see because I don't have enough light in there, but anyways, down the corner here there's another light that is just around to the side, and that's a running light. So I got LEDs coming for that next week, so I figured I might as well change that since I've been here now too. You're going to need 4 6 ohm resistors, 50 watts, and you're going to need 2 8 ohm 50 watt resistors. When you order these, some of the kits that you order come with these clips, so that you don't have to cut the wire. You could just clip them in. I don't recommend you use those. If you guys are car guys, you want to do something right, you want to do it, make sure it lasts. So I'm going to walk you through the process on how I do that, just in case you're not familiar with it. Okay, so start the process. I found the easiest thing was to do is actually to mount the resistors on the vehicle first. That way, once you get it installed, you'll have a better idea of where you want to splice the wire in for the circuitry. One of the things I ran into is, so if you have a 632, you're probably okay, but I didn't have a 632, I have an 832. So I have an 832, this is a combination, it drills and taps all at the same time. So I'll be using that. So the 830, and I got some 1/4 inch 832 screws that I got from a local hardware store for 5 cents a piece. So the resistor, the one problem is the hole here is not quite big enough for the 832 screw. So I have a 11/64 drill bit here, and I'm going to drill out the 2 holes to make them a little bit larger. Okay, so I drilled out the resistor mounting holes to 11/64, so the 832 screws will actually go through that. And what I did is I drilled the first hole, marked it, I actually put the resistor in place, and then when it was in place, I actually drilled out the second one. I find that works easier. I tried marking both and then drilling both, and the first one I did, and it just didn't quite line up properly. So I find it's easier just to drill the one, use a screw, mount it, and use that there as a guide to drill your new hole, and that way they line up properly. So let me just install this. Okay, so the running light resistor is mounted, and what we're going to do now is I'm going to do a couple things. On the circuitry that goes to the light here, there's actually 2 brown wires. You want to find the brown wire that actually comes from the source. The second brown wire actually goes to you can see back in the corner there, that is actually the running light. You can see the socket for in the back. Try not to use that one. If you have to, you can. It's not a big deal, but just, it makes things a little cleaner. If you find the brown wire that feeds into here, and what I'm going to do now is the same thing with the black. I'm going to find the black wire that goes with that as well, and that's right there. So once you pull these 2 wires out, those are the 2 ones I'm going to tap into. And what I'm going to do is using a here we go, stripping tool. I'm going to do a couple little breaks. I'm going to put a mark in the wire, probably about 1/2 inch apart, take off the insulation in between. And for the resistor, they give a little bit of the wire already is stripped off. What I can do is I can put it back a little bit more, just to give me a little more wire to connect this. And so I'm going to strip a piece of the brown, piece of the black, and get ready to solder that. Now, item to note is you don't want to get too close to where the light bulb is. You want to be down a little ways, because otherwise it's going to make things awkward for you if you ever have to change this light down the road. And what I did as well for a couple of the other ones, resistors I put in just for down the road. If you can read my gibberish, that's the signal one. And underneath I actually got a Sharpie, and that's a brake light. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to get a Sharpie and just write underneath here, running light or something just identified. So if ever down the road have to do any work on this, it's easier to figure out which ones it is. And by the way, the resistors, you could buy them without the wire or with the wire. There's no price difference, so I got the ones where they actually connected and soldered and put heat shrink on the wires already. So it just saves me a little bit of work on doing that. So what I'm going to do now again, just going to strip off a little piece of the brown, a little piece of the black, and then I'll show you how I solder those on if I can. Okay, so I've cleared off the brown one. I'm just going to try to show you on video here too, just what that looks like when I do it. Just give you an idea what it is I'm trying to accomplish. Hopefully this works out all right. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. There. And so I've already went through and with the wire stripping tool just made a little mark here and here, 1/2 inch apart. And what I can do now is I'm just going to show you how I just strip the copper off, or the insulation off the copper conductor. Just slide that down like that, and just kind of work your way around the wire. And that ends up not too bad. Do the back here. All right, and then what I do is, once I got it peeled back a little bit, very carefully with some side cutters, just take off the insulation. That's been removed. Glasses keep falling off, can't see. Anyways, you get the idea here. So take your time, just kind of work your way through here, get that off, and that'll give you a little section of wire that's stripped off. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I've already peeled this back a little bit as well, so I've got a little more area to cover, and I'm going to show you how I solder these together. All right, got the video started here. Just going to go through show you how I solder these, and hopefully it works out all right with the video. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to see this. Essentially, we're going to be soldering right there. Let me try to zoom in a little bit. Here we go. All right, so I've stripped back the insulation on the resistor. Going to put them right next to one. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to twist this right around, good couple of turns, so that it's right wrapped around. See if you can see that. There we go. All right, and I can take a little bit of my solder paste. I can put a little bit of solder paste here. There we go. The nice thing I like about this is if you don't cut the wire and you just strip it out, the wire pretty well holds itself there, so it's nice. Otherwise you might need an extra set of hands to hold it together. Oops. There it is. All right, and that is soldered. And that is together good and checked. Got a nice clean connection on there. So let me just, there we go. Anyways, there is the solder connection that we have. You can see that, so it's nicely tinned. And what I can do now is I can put some electrical tape on that. Got some 3M Scotch 88 that works really good, that I used to use at the utility, it's rated for like 300 volts. Well, that'll be good. So I'm just gonna tape that up and be back at you. All right, so you can see here now I'm inside the vehicle and I'm putting the headlights on, and there is no error message coming on. So that has worked, and so that has solved the problem with the false tail light error message coming up. And also I've already done the brakes, so you can see here when I do the brakes, there's no issues with that either. And for the signals are working good, flashing as quick as they did before as well, left and right. And I put the hazards on, the hazards work fine as well. So that solves the problem with the LED lights and the false error messages that I get. And yeah, hopefully this video helped you guys. All right, so real quick, just to summarize here, got two 1157 red LEDs. They're about 20 bucks. Got two 1156 yellow LEDs for the signals. The red's for the brake and tail light, obviously the running light. And your color coding on that is the brake light is actually the red wire. The tail light, running light, is the brown wire on mine. The signal one is the 1156, and I got one side here, it's actually orange, and the other one is green. So you may want to check on yours, but there's only two wires there, so it's easy to figure out which ones you need to go across. I got two 8 ohm 50 watt resistors. That cost me 10 bucks. Actually, it was a 4-pack. I got four 6 ohm 60 watt resistors. That was $10 as well. The side marker lights, which are coming in about a week, number 144. Those things are $20, and those are coming in red as well, so that's 20 bucks. So the whole project here is about $80. You probably take a good couple hours to do that. Materials you'll need for this, I got 1/4" 832 screws to mount those resistors. You need 12 of those. Get a couple extra for droppage. Need 832 drill tap. You need 11/64 drill bit to tap out, or so drill out the resistors so the screws go through it. And you need a solder gun, you need some solder, and some electrical tape. And when you're all done, and here we go. Essentially, it'll look something like this. Keep away, just a caution, don't put your resistors here because the plastic's going to be right next to it, and you don't want to melt the interior. You could potentially mount down here as well, but I kept everything closer to the lights to where the wiring was. And I still need a mark on the car here that this is for the tail light. Actually, I did it on this other side over here. You might be able to see that. So anyways, tail light, brake light, and this is the signal light one. And what I got some wire loom coming, so I'm going to clean this all up and put it back together. And actually it works out well because the wire loom's coming about the same time as the side marker lights for the back here as well. And fun project, 80 bucks, not too bad. And I'll just show you what it looks like with the lights on. So there it is. You can see that well, these are the hazards, but the signals work exactly the same way, so they're flash fine. And that's just the running light, so it's not even the brake light. So the brake light is like double as bright as that. So that's what that looks like during the daytime, and you can see the running light during the daytime on blacked out tail lights. So anyways, I hope that you guys found this useful. I wasn't planning on doing a video on it, but I didn't find anything user-friendly on the internet as far as what size resistors to use, why I needed the resistors, how to connect the resistors. And just keep in mind, when you put the resistors in, resistors, there's no polarities on those, so it doesn't matter which way you connect them, this way or that way. Doesn't really matter, just as long as you go across, you need to go across the wires, not in line with the wires. I do have a couple of wiring schematics. If I can insert them, I'll insert them at the end of the video here, just so you could see how that comes together. And anyways, yeah, happy motoring, guys. Take care.